door, I make them bitches hit the floor for keys. Yeah.
Travis got it here, and I'm back with some more boxing. Luis Ortiz could possibly face off against Dillian Whyte, according to Eddie Hearn. Now, this is a fight that I never even really thought of. I was just thinking, like, you know, Luis Ortiz is calling out Deontay Wilder. He's trying to get a straight shot at Deontay Wilder instead of earning a mandatory. Okay, I mean, if he really wanted to push for that fight, Luis Ortiz would get that fight anyway. So I've never really considered Dillian Whyte, who had just participated in a WBC eliminator with Derek Chisora. Now, as you all know, Luis Ortiz is number 2 through the WBC, and Bermane Stiverne is number 1. Due to Alexander Povetkin being removed as number 1, it bumped everybody up. Dillian Whyte is currently number 4 through the WBC. So that fight, I mean, it makes ranking sense. Like Dillian Whyte said, Dillian Whyte don't want to do the Derek Chisora rematch. He's trying to move on to bigger and better things, according to him. But I think that's the biggest fight available for him, the biggest money fight. That really could headline his own card. They just got to act right during the build-up because Derek Chisora got a suspended 2-year sentence where, like, if he throw another table, then he's going to be suspended by the British Board of Control over there for 2 years. But that's the fight for him to make. Derek Chisora want to make it. Dillian Whyte don't want to make it. But Dillian Whyte is number 4 and Luis Ortiz is number 2. And I like that fight. I like that fight a lot, man. That fight right there show you where Luis Ortiz is at. And I don't even think he'll win it. I don't think much about Luis Ortiz, to be honest, man. He was looking good a couple years ago when he was knocking out Brian Jennings and shit. He looked real good. But that Tony Thompson appearance, that shit didn't look like shit. He just stopped some bum that David Allen, I believe that kid name is. It was like 9-1. And they stopped the fight and shit. But it looked like the guy really could have continued. Tony Thompson didn't look good there. Malik Scott. You let a guy, I mean, this dude tried to fucking take a dive, man. And then when the referee wouldn't let him take a dive, then he was able to keep Luis Ortiz from hitting him, man. He was able to evade Luis Ortiz pretty easily. And I mean, he's like taunting him right there. He's standing right against the ropes, sticking his tongue out and making his eyes all big and crazy and shit right in Luis Ortiz's face. Look, Luis Ortiz might be a good fighter, but he ain't been showing it. And he's getting up there in age. It's like he can't cut off the ring and shit. A motherfucker can circle away from him. I think Dillian Whyte could win that fight. I think Dillian Whyte could take his power. Take Luis Ortiz's power. He got knocked out by Anthony Joshua, but I think that Dillian Whyte would be able to keep Luis Ortiz from landing that clean on him. And Luis Ortiz ain't that quick or even that skilled. I mean, just to be honest, man, this motherfucker had like a lot of hype going for him a year ago before he started, you know, with these questionable appearances and shit. And that's really not saying, that's not speaking too highly of Luis Ortiz, because I feel like Derek Chisora beat Dillian Whyte. I don't know if Derek Chisora would be able to beat Luis Ortiz, though. Styles make fights. Derek Chisora would be like extremely aggressive and shit. He might run into some shit. He would probably run into some shit if he fought Luis Ortiz. But I think that Dillian Whyte might be able to pull it off, but he would have to be willing to accept the fight. That's the thing. This is Eddie Hearn speaking. Let me go over his statement. Eddie Hearn stated, Whyte had a great win against Derek Chisora in a wonderful fight, and he's looking to get out on a Kell Brook card, or even June 3rd at the O2. He's moving up the world rankings. He wants fights that will position him for a shot at the title, like the likes of Ortiz. Ortiz is in a great position. He's number 1 with the WBA, number 2 with the WBC, highly ranked with the IBF. So, that's Eddie Hearn's statement. So that makes ranking sense. That was his reason for ducking the Derek Chisora fight. Let's see if he'll take that fight. I really think that he would beat Luis Ortiz. And then he could put himself in line for a shot at Deontay Wilder. That'd be a fun fight. I really don't think too much about Dillian Whyte no more, man. Either one of these guys, really. I mean, this is not A-level fighters we're talking about. Not everybody can be A-level fighters. I'm just saying, man. Shit. Dillian Whyte going against Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder would love that fight. And it seemed like Deontay Wilder is kind of scared of Luis Ortiz for some reason. So, if Dillian Whyte was to beat Luis Ortiz, I'm pretty sure Deontay Wilder would be pretty happy. Because he'd feel like it'd be an easier fight. It's like Dillian Whyte isn't a harder puncher than Luis Ortiz. And maybe Deontay Wilder could be worried about getting knocked out. That's a possibility. Because Deontay Wilder, he got rocked by Eric Molina in the 4th round. And he looked like he got rocked in a sparring match by David Haye. It looked like he got rocked a little bit. But, David Haye is a really good fighter, man. And you really shouldn't be trying to knock out your sparring partners like he was doing. David Haye really swung for the fences, and that's not how you spar people. But still, Deontay Wilder got stumbled by David Haye. And then a lot of people feel like David Haye will fuck up Deontay Wilder, not just because of that. But yeah, I think he should go for that shit, man. I think Dillian Whyte should make that fight. And will Luis Ortiz do the fight? That's another thing. Luis Ortiz is the one with the options here. Luis Ortiz called out Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder didn't want to make the fight because Luis Ortiz failed a drug test 3 years ago. And Luis Ortiz could face he's the mandatory through the WBA. So he could face the Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua winner. He could face them, use his mandatory for that. That's a big fight. That's a big payday. That's a bigger payday than fighting Dillian Whyte on the undercard of a Brook fight. So will he take it? It just depends on which route he want to go. Because if you want to get that big fight, you could just, you don't really want to wait. But if he go and take the Dillian Whyte fight and he lose, then he would be fucking himself out of that big fight and that big payday. And you need that publicity too, even in a loss. Just say if he was to fight the winner of Klitschko versus Joshua. And he didn't win the fight, but he didn't get knocked out. And he had a few spots in the fight. He maybe even cornered Anthony Joshua. Let's say if Anthony Joshua won that fight, he cornered Anthony Joshua, was teeing off on him, and he caught Joshua with a couple shots, and he lost on points. And that's a big fight. It's going to be on Sky Sports pay-per-view, the main event, and then you would be able to go on and fight on another card and shit in a high-profile fight. You could go and make a Dillian Whyte fight on an undercard or something like that. You might even be able to sell some tickets on his own, but maybe not. I don't know. It depends on how good he look in that fight, because it's not just like if you lose, it's how you lose. You can go to war with a motherfucker, and then nobody will really be mad at you if you lose that fight. But if you go out there and you get outboxed like Maidana did against Devin Alexander. Now that's a big hit to your career. That's like, fuck, I gotta bounce back from this shit. That's like the worst way you want to lose. It's like you couldn't do shit. You just came up, you showed up, and this motherfucker just beat the fuck out of you easily, man. Easy work. So that type of shit will have you like out of the ring and shit for a long time, for like a year. Gotta let fans forget about your horrible performance, but it all depends, man, on what Luis Ortiz want to do and how confident he is in himself. Because, like I said, man, I think Dillian Whyte will win that fight. I think that Luis Ortiz is ready to go. He might not get knocked out by Dillian Whyte, but I think that he would lose that fight, man. I think Luis Ortiz would lose that fight. So we just got to sit back, man, and see what Luis Ortiz want to do. Luis Ortiz, he act like he want to fight everybody, right? That's the way he put himself out there. It's like he calling out Deontay Wilder, so you must think that you could win that fight. I don't think that Luis Ortiz could win that fight. I think that he would be making a mistake. But, shit, you got to go for either champion. Shit, the Klitschko-Joshua winner or Deontay Wilder. I think he'll lose whether he fight either one of those guys. But he got to make a decision, man. He got a lot of fucking options and shit. He do got a lot of options. I think Big Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller, or whatever his name, didn't want to fight Luis Ortiz. But hey, if Dillian Whyte want to make this fight, then Luis Ortiz could possibly fight him. Shit, that could be like a $200 to $300. That could be a $250,000 fight for him. Shit, I know Luis Ortiz ain't rich yet. He ain't making them big paydays, so he does have something to gain. Not, I mean, his ranking through the WBC might stay the same. That's the thing. So, if he wanted to get the shot at Deontay Wilder, he don't really have to make this fight with Dillian Whyte. He could just go straight for Bermane-Stiverne, or, Bermane-Stiverne can withdraw from the eliminator when the WBC order it, and then he would be number one, and then they will order like the next guy to fight Luis Ortiz. So I guess we just got to sit back and see what Luis Ortiz decide to do. I think that Dillian Whyte should be all for this fight. You should take this shit. Take this fight and go and outbox Luis Ortiz, and then get you a shot at Deontay Wilder. Because you already done got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. So what you want to do? Would you want to go and get knocked out by Anthony Joshua again? Fuck that. Go fight Luis Ortiz, beat him, and then get your shot at Deontay Wilder. I'm Travis Gotti. Thank you for tuning in. Travis Gotti Boxing. Subscribe.